So this morning we will discuss Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, chapter 3, Pure Devotional Service, the Change in Heart, text 20. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narottanam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Diyat Udiret Nastavesya Bhatrasu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavati Utamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Bile Bhatoro Kamavikramam Ye Yashrim Vata Karnapute Narasya Jiva Satidarturikeva Sutta Nacho Pagayat Yogaya Gata. The word for word translation. Bile snake holes, Bhatta like Rukama, the Lord who acts marvelously. Vikraman prowess, ye all these, na never. Shimvata hurt, Karnapute the ear holes, Narasya of the man, Jiva tongue, Asati useless, Dardurika of the frogs, Eva exactly like that. Sutta, O Sutta Goswami, na never, cha also, Upagayati chants loudly, Urgaya words singing, Gataha songs. Translation and purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. One must not listen to the messages about the prowess and marvelous acts of the personality of Godhead, and has not sung or chanted loudly the worthy songs about the Lord, is to be considered to possess ear holes like the holes of snakes, and a tongue like the tongue of a frog. Devotional service to the Lord is rendered by all limbs or parts of the body. It is It is the transcendental dynamic force of the spirit soul. Therefore, a devotee is engaged 100% in the service of the Lord. One can engage in devotional service when the senses of the body are purified in relation with the Lord, and one can render service to the Lord with the help of all the senses. As such, the senses and the action of the senses are to be considered impure or materialistic as long as they are employed only in sense gratification. The purified senses are engaged not in sense gratification, but in the service of the Lord in total. The Lord is the supreme with all senses, and the servitor, who is part and parcel of the Lord, also has the same senses. Service to the Lord is a completely purified use of the senses as described in the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord imparted instructions with full senses, and Arjuna received them with full senses, and thus there was a perfect exchange of sensible and logical understanding between the master and the disciple. Spiritual understanding is nothing like an electrical charge from the masters to the disciple, as foolishly claimed by some propaganda mongers. Everything is full of sense and logic, and the exchange of views between the master and the disciple is possible only when the reception is submissive and real. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that one should receive the teachings of Lord Chaitanya with intellect and full senses so that one can logically understand the great mission. In the impure state, a living being, the various senses are fully engaged in mundane affairs. If the ear is not engaged in the service of the Lord by hearing about him from the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, surely the holes of the ear will be filled with some rubbish. Therefore, the messages of the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam should be preached all over the world very loudly. That is the duty of a pure devotee who has actually heard about them from the perfect sources. Many want to speak something to others, but because they are not trained to speak on the subject matter of Vedic wisdom, they are all speaking nonsense, and people are receiving them with no sense. There are hundreds and thousands of sources for distributing mundane news of the world, and people of the world are also receiving it. Similarly, the people of the world should be taught to hear the transcendental topics of the Lord, and the devotee of the Lord must speak loudly so they can hear. The frogs loudly croak, with the result that they invite the snakes to eat them. The human tongue is especially given for chanting the Vedic hymns and not for croaking like frogs. The word asati used in this verse is also significant. Asati means a woman who has become a prostitute. A prostitute has no reputation for good womanly qualities. Similarly, the tongue which is given to the human being for chanting the Vedic hymns will be considered a prostitute when engaged in chanting some mundane nonsense. Read the verse once again. Pile batoro kama vikramam yesh nashrim vatakarna pute narasya. Shiva satidar durika eva sutta. Nacho pagaya durgaya gata. One who has not listened to the message about the prowess and marvelous acts of the personality of Godhead, and has not sung or chanted loudly devotee songs about the Lord, is to be considered to possess ear holes like the holes of snakes and a tongue like the tongue of a frog. Om Ajnanatimandasya Jananjana Shalaka Chaksavan Militam Yena Tasmai Shigove Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Staputam Yena Bhutani Svamrupakadamyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shiyo Shiyoda Padakamanam Shiyom Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Jagajatam Sakan Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savdutam Parijana Saitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sakanadita Shri Vishakam Vitam Shah Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jatpate Gopesha Kopka Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwar Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Panamama Haripriya Panchakalptrubhisha, Kripasinabhevasya, Patnapavanabhyo, Vaishnabhyo, Namo. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Kinamine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini. Nirvishesha Srinyavadi Paskachari Prasatari. Srila Prabhupada Ki. So this chapter is about the change in heart. Change in heart from attachment to sense gratification to attachment to Krishna, to Lord Krishna. And this change of heart requires purification of consciousness. That this is very essential. Lord Krishna wants us to go back to the spiritual world. That therefore, how to go back to the spiritual world? Antakala samameva sman mukta kalevram yapriyat samadbhavam yatinastra samsaya. Krishna says, one who remembers me at the end of his life, antakalevram, the end of the body. That he says that one will attain my nature. There is no doubt. Because yam yam vapisvam vavante antante kalevram tam tam aveti kanti asatadat bhava bhavati. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. So to attain that state, that at the end of life, we have to become Krishna conscious during this lifetime. And that to become Krishna conscious, Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, we have to go to a process. And that process, he explains already in Bhagavad Gita 4:10 that Vita raga bhayako daman maya mamu pashvita bhavvagana tapasa buddhamad bhavam agata. Said you have to become free from attachment, fear, and anger, because this attachment, fear, and anger we cultivate by hearing about sense gratification, which makes us more and more identify with the body. Become free from that by becoming fully absorbed in him. And then we take refuge in him. And then that we become purified by that knowledge of Krishna. When we become purified, Krishna says, one can attain transcendental love for me. That's the purpose. That one can attain transcendental love. And Krishna says, many sages have done this already. That's encouraging. Many have done it already. That to develop this love. But was the beginning to develop this love? Krishna says in 10:8 in Bhagavad Gita, Ham sarvasya prabhavo matashavam pavakti iti matva bhajantamam buddha bhav samambita. It says the same thing. Many sages developed love for me, but first they have heard that I'm the source of everything. That I'm the source of everything. That everything comes from me. That And by hearing about me, they have come to that point of developing love for me. That how to develop this love? Machita machata brana bodhyascha parashparam katyant samptisya tushanti charamanasya. One must become attached to hearing about me and chanting my glories, discussing my pastimes. And then one becomes purified. That so that this absorption in transcendental knowledge is important, and it's said here in the purport that yes, that Prabhupada explains this process is not a sentimental process. That he says, yeah, it's not an electrical charge from the master to the disciple. No, everything is full of sense and logic. And the exchange of views between the master and disciple is possible when the reception is submissive and real. As a devotee wrote me that I have a problem. I have a challenge in my Krishna consciousness. I'm losing faith. That, but what's the antidote against that losing faith? Is our faith should first, in the beginning especially, be supported by sense and logic. The Krishna consciousness is a science. You may turn it how you want, but finally, if you analyze yourself, you will come to the point that you understand, I'm not this body. I'm the consciousness in this body. And and according to our level of consciousness, we have experiences. That to experience Krishna consciousness, we must be on a much higher level, but that's a process. It's a process that starts with this hearing about Krishna. Because that is the purpose of the Vedanta. Lord Chaitanya explains to Prakashananda Saraswati that he said the purpose of the Vedanta and the purpose of the Upanishad is fully explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. And in summary, the Bhagavatam was given to Lord Chaitanya, to Lord Brahma, through the heart, Tene Brahmaridaya Ade Kavaye. And it was given to him in 4 verses, the 4 seed verses. And starting with the verse Ame Vasame Vajre 2:9-33, which explains that the Supreme Lord is the source of all creation. Everything comes from him, everything goes back on him. So everything is connected with the relation, with the creation. So the next verse explains, if you see things not connected with the Supreme Lord, then you are in illusion. So if we hear things in this world which are not connected with Krishna, which are not connected to our service, we are just for sense gratification, we are killing our awareness of our soul, and we will take birth again. So we must always try to stay in Krishna consciousness. And the first steps toward this is Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And then when you hear about Krishna and discuss about Krishna, yes, then you understand that the Supreme Lord exists in everything created, but at the same time is transcendental outside it. But everything is connected to the Supreme Lord. So when one comes to beyond liberation in Nishta, that first anartha nivritti, one acts as a madhyamadikar, and then one becomes liberated by this process of hearing, chanting, remembering, serving Krishna in so many ways. Then liberation means there is no sense anymore of material consciousness. It's gone. But the process to get there, first, we must consider in our lives every moment, if I'm going into that, is that going to elevate my consciousness or bring my consciousness down? If my mind concentrates on sense gratification, what should I do? Krishna says, Yato yato nishalti manashansalam ashtiram. When your mind wanders, you have to bring it back to me. So this is Lord Chaitanya says to Praksananta Saraswati, he says, yes, the meaning of all the Upanishads and the Vedanta is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srimad Bhagavatam is concerned with three subjects. That is understanding our own position as a spirit soul. Then understanding the position of Krishna. And then understanding our relationships and engage in that relationship. That's the purpose of all the Vedas. But it starts with knowing Krishna. And therefore, we need to hear that when one comes at the point of liberation by that complete absorption, then Ruchi and Ashakti come. Ashakti means one sees only Krishna outside, inside, everywhere. It sees only Krishna. And that's a reality. Then one sees everything in this world is a pastime of Krishna. Krishna is the Lord and the controller of everything. Krishna is our maintainer. Krishna is our best friend. That's the Lord Chaitanya explains, that is the real meaning of Vedanta Sutra and the Upanishads. But many mental speculators have made something else out of this and gave indirect meanings. But our relation with the spiritual master, he gives us knowledge, its full sense of sense and logic. But to understand this, one must be submissive, one must be qualified, one must be surrendered. Therefore, Krishna says surrender, that's the first thing. So it's important to study every day Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita gives all the knowledge we need. But to understand this in practice, you have to daily hear the Bhagavatam. So in the impure state of a living being, the various senses are fully engaged in mundane affairs. And this is the life of the people, of most people in this world. They live a life absorbing them in the material energy, and they never get to know their real position, that how they are controlled by material energy, how to get out of this control. That if we perform a sadhana, a good sadhana, then we are protected against the influence of the material energy. It's not that the body is not under the influence of the material energy anymore. No, but we, the soul, are not affected by the good and bad and all the reactions of the material energy. That and we, as a result, our suffering diminishes. Prabhupada gives this example many times. If one hears about mundane topics of sense gratification, it's like the croaking of a frog. A frog croaks and he only invites the serpent to come to eat him. So we may have a materialistic style of life and engage in so many things in this world, but it comes to an end. And what happens after death, we don't know. So it is here mentioned the duty of a pure devotee was actually heard about them from the perfect sources. What is that duty is to preach to others, to explain to others this process of devotional service. The devotional service is a process with stages. Even if we come to prema in this life and you leave this body and you have love of God, that still you may not go back directly to the spiritual world. You go to a place where Krishna is his pastimes, to be trained up further by Krishna's eternal associates, his pure devotees. That to engage in rasa, in a certain relationship with Krishna under the guidance of his eternal associates. That says, many want to speak something to others, but they are not trained to speak on the subject of matter of Vedic wisdom. They are speaking nonsense. Nonsense means about temporary sense gratification. When Srila Prabhupada arrived in Los Angeles and he saw old men playing with balls, he became angry and said, why are they wasting their time? So no sense of what their own position is. It's just avidya, deep ignorance. So people of the world should be taught to hear the transcendental topics of the Lord. And Prabhupada bring it back to our mission. That's our mission. To spread this knowledge. But if we want to come to a pure, to change of heart, then it's important that we don't put our consciousness into business of sense gratification. That we should manmana, we should always think of Krishna, and Vaidhi sadhana bhakti is the way to attain that. It's a regulated process by which we are forced to connect with Krishna. Of course, force does not help when it must become voluntary. But why is there no taste? There is no taste because we have more taste for sense gratification. And the only way out is the association with pure devotees and hear from them. So therefore, if we don't hear daily the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, if we are not chanting our rounds, if we are not doing service, the change of heart will not happen. To get the change of heart means a change of mentality, a change of attitude, a change of desire. That change will come about only when we hear sufficiently about the Supreme Lord. Then the inner attitude will change. Our desires will change. Especially if we associate with pure devotees. That we see, we observe them. We see how they are undisturbed, happy, and how they are always fully engaged in the service of the Lord. That by their association we become affected by this desire to serve Krishna. That because if we hear about sense gratification, Krishna says, Avitam jnanam itina jnanina nitya karinam. Yeah. Jnaninam. Avitam jnanam itina jnanina karinam. Dat kamerupena kanteya dusprenanalenyasya. Dat avitam jnanam itina. It covers our eternal knowledge, our eternal consciousness, jnanina nitya varina, and therefore this talking about sense gratification is our greatest enemy. Kamerupena kantya dusprenanalenyasya. It never satisfies you, this sense gratification. It's burning like fire. You want more and more, and the problem increases. That unfortunately, in this modern world, that they only propagate bodily consciousness in the schools. And by that bodily consciousness, everyone is degraded. Prabhupada calls it slaughterhouses of consciousness. They learn about I and mine, and how to exploit that. So we see that reflected in politics, in statesmen even. This I and mine is there. But when one acts according to I and mine, what does one get? Suffering, and at the end the opposite. And we see how this is happening every moment, individually or collectively. That if one wants to become peaceful, then the problem is envy of God. That's the root problem of all other envy. That can only be rooted out by getting to know Krishna, and by re-establishing our relationship, that come back in our constitutional position, and then inner peace will come. That so the next verses will also speak about that, about the king and his crown. If the crown does not bow down before the Supreme Lord, it's just a burden. That so yes, that means we are servants of Krishna. If we forget that, then it becomes problematic. That so ear holes like holes of snake, a tongue like the tongue of a frog. So we get ears. That we get the tongue. We get the body. We get senses. The Supreme Lord has also senses, transcendental senses. We are made according to the model or the example of the Supreme Lord. But we are very limited. But if we don't learn how to connect our senses with Krishna by engaging in devotional service, it becomes poison. That's the message here. That you use everything you have in the service of Krishna. If you engage it to satisfy lust, anger, greed, envy, and so on, then it brings you to hell. Suffering is awaiting. That your attachment to the material energy will increase. Increasement of attachment to the material energy creates expectations which are never to be fulfilled. Material desires cannot be fulfilled. That only temporary and to a certain extent, but never fully fulfilled. You will never be satisfied by offering things to the body. That we are satisfied by our connection in love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I remember when Guru Maharaj said in Mayapur, beginning of the parikram, you have now arrived on the transcendental platform. You are chanting Krishna's names, remembering Krishna's pastimes. Don't come down again. But that is applicable for every moment in our lives. Every moment, remembering that it's then healthy one becomes humble if one understands one's real position. And then when one suffers, one ceases how to serve as a mercy of Krishna. And be assured, if you become a devotee, you get much less suffering than we deserve. We see it as Krishna's mercy. So yes, that is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that he gives at the end of the Gita, I think it's 18, before Krishna gives the final conclusion of the Gita, that he says to Arjuna that there are two possibilities. That it's here, yeah. He says 1858, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act to false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. So if you become Krishna conscious, that does not mean that your life in this material world becomes rose and Sharanamrita, no. But there will be obstacles, Krishna says, but you will be able to overcome them if you are conscious of me. But if you do not work in Krishna consciousness, then you will act as being the body out of false ego. You will not hear me. You will be lost. So that's important. Krishna said, you will not hear me. Krishna speaks in Bhagavad Gita, but if your mind is in sense gratification, you will not hear what he is saying, not understand it. That when Narada Muni was preaching Srimad Bhagavatam, to Kayadu, the wife of Narada Muni, of the wife of Hiranyakashipu, and in her womb was Prahlad. Prahlad realized the instructions he received in the womb in a very difficult situation, but Kayadu did not. Kayadu, because her mind was always absorbed in her husband. She wanted just to go back. She was not interested in hearing this Bhagavatam. But at the other side, Prahlad got the blessings of Narada Muni. So yes, that when we act to false hearing ego, we cannot hear Krishna. To the extent we give up our false ego and come to our real ego, we start to understand Krishna. Understanding Krishna comes after really liberation. Then we start to understand. Because if you are liberated, then you start to realize Krishna's qualities. That's explained in text 5 of Nectar of Instruction. Prabhupada says it clearly. When you chant and you think constantly of Krishna, no interruption anymore, then Krishna reveals his qualities, his beauty, his sweetness, and so on. But Krishna says to if you, Arjuna, if you do not follow my instructions, you will be falsely directed. That if you are not following these instructions of the Bhagavatam and not try to focus on Krishna, then yes, we will be falsely directed. And that is the position of the entire world. Prabhupada said it's a misdirected civilization. Everyone has the misgiving of I'm the body. That misunderstanding. That's the problem. But if it means here, this first stress is simply you hear everything about Krishna. You get your doses of hearing. Don't hear other things which are outside your service. It's just for sense gratification. And it will degrade your consciousness. And that's up to us. That Udrat Atmanatman Atmanat Avasadayat Atmeva Atmana Bandur Atmeva Ripur Atmana. With the mind you can degrade yourself. Or you can upgrade yourself. The mind is your friend or your enemy. bandhu atmatmanas tasyayanatma anatmanat sataha anatmas tu satratvi vartetatma vavartavat. The mind is your friend when it's controlled. It's your enemy when it's uncontrolled. So it's controlled when controlling is not just an act of, oh, I'm going to control my mind. You may not be able. Controlling your mind means I'm engaging my mind in hearing in service of Krishna. That is controlling. That when it's uncontrolled, then it's no end. That and that is what Prahlad says to his father. That in the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam, that there is saying Matirna Krishna Pardos Vatubha Mitopi Bhatyet Vyapanamanandha Vishatam Tamisham Tamam Kunang Shiva Shiva. No, it's Matirna Krishna Pardos Vatubha Mitopi Bhatyet Vyapanamanandha Anandha Vishatam Tamisham Punas Sarvata Sarvanam. He said to his father, Prahlad, your senses are uncontrolled because they are too addicted to materialistic life. That addiction, that is something which grows, and we have to stop this growth of this addiction. If we hear topics outside of Krishna consciousness, then we are just inviting death. That we are engaging in chewing what has already been chewed. Eating, sleeping, defending, every day the same thing. That and by that we will not become attracted to Krishna. So this is, of course, we are in the beginning of the Bhagavatam. These are very basic things. But if we don't get this basic thing together, then the next cantos will be difficult to understand. Why Prabhupada says at the end of the 2nd canto, one must be able to control grossly at least one's senses. If not, go back to the 1st canto. So that is the message of this verse. It's a verse quoted many times by Prabhupada. Any comments, questions? Yes, Mother Venuya.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my most humble obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very, very much for your wonderful, clear words. If possible, I have 2 questions. Yesterday evening, I started the 10th canto, also for the 2nd time. And in the 1st chapter, in the purport of the 23rd verse, also 1, 10, 23, there's written, I must minimize because I have Veda basically open because I have only in German
it's 110
23.
Okay, the Brahma's wives. And the verses?
Nee, also Entschuldigung, excuse me, 10th canto, 1st chapter, verse 23.
Verse 23.
Yeah, and this is in the purport. Prabhupada says that a pure devotee will be brought on the upper planetary systems where the pious living entities live, even if we execute devotional service, even if even if unable to execute, he is thus a pure devotee, even if unable to execute devotional service completely, is transferred to the upper planetary system where pious people reside. From there, if his devotional service is complete, such a devotee is transferred to the place where the Lord's pastimes are going on. here is said, Sambhavantu Surastria. Surastri, the woman of the heavenly planets, were thus ordered to appear in the Yadrusi and so on. My question is, how far is this talked about the pure devotee? How far is this applicable to us? Also, if we give up the body and maybe we are a little qualified already to make some advancement or to make a little advancement. Is it for us also that if we are not perfect in our devotional service, but that we go already to a higher planetary system, and from this place out we qualify to come closer to Loka Vrindavan? Is this like this or not?
There are two kinds of pure devotees. The pure devotee was pure in intention, but his heart is not pure yet, not completely pure. Still some slight desire to enjoy that. So it may be transferred to the upper planetary systems where the pious people reside. From there, if devotional service is complete, then one becomes factually a pure devotee in heart. Then the devotee is transferred to the place where the Lord's pastimes are going on. We have examples from that in the Bhagavatam. The Munichari gopis, before they were the sages of the Dandakaranya forest. And these sages in the Dandakaranya forest, when Lord Ram visited them 2 million years ago, because they were pure devotees and they desired to have a relationship with Lord Ram in conjugal love. But Lord Ram said, I cannot do that. In my incarnation, Eka Patni, I only one wife, Sita. But in my next incarnation, as Krishna at the end of Dwapara Yuga, we can have this relationship. So they took birth in the womb of gopis, Nitya Siddha gopis, coming from the spiritual world. And this Nitya Siddha gopis trained them further up in devotional service, in the right rasa with Krishna and so on. And finally, they became qualified. And they got rasa dance with Krishna, and then they went back to the spiritual world. So that is what I said before. It's a process, devotional service. That even if we are in this world, nothing is really pure. To get pure Krishna consciousness, it's not easy. It's always tinged with something. But Krishna says, no problem. Next life, you go to, you are transferred to a place where I have my pastimes. And there you are further trained up. When you are trained up, then you go back to the spiritual world. You are completely pure. Without completely pure, we cannot go to the spiritual world. So that's a fact, what is in the Bhagavatam. Does that help to understand that?
That means also our little chances maybe that we have a pure intention, maybe, also this could be a little chance.
It starts with pure intention. Pure intention means Anyabilas Tasyunam Hyanaka Matana Vitam Anukliyena Krishna Silnam Bhaktutama. You know the verse. That's you serve Krishna not with a material desire, just to please him. Does not mean that your heart is already pure, that you are a pure devotee, but you can act in pure devotional service. Okay, and that will bring you to that point. But going to the place where Krishna is pastimes it's as good as a spiritual birth.
Yes.
And then you go to the spiritual world.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, Marge, I understand it a little better. So, and my second question is related to this also. Also, what is this breaking point in us that we come really to this attitude, not to gratify our own senses, but to gratify Krishna's sense? Also, also if I observe myself, it is maybe this breaking point that we don't have a realization of to be a servant and what does it mean to be a servant, and that in the material world to be a servant is such a
Yeah,
attractive position. Ne? Also, since I've read the Bhagavad Gita, I always was wondering in the fifth chapter of 15, also 5:15,
yeah,
in the purport, Srila Prabhupada said, since time immemorial, the soul, the individual soul, tries to avoid Krishna consciousness. Ne? And I was always wondering about the sense. What is this breaking point that I can break through this to come from to go away from the tendency to gratify my own senses and to really with a happy feeling please Krishna.
Satatam kirtiyantu mam yatantasa dritavrata. Dritavrata is a determination. The determination, I may not control my senses, but I have the determination to give it up. I say no. That even if I fail, I will continue to say no. I will serve Krishna. That determination is important. That we have to be patient and enthusiastic, but that determination, that is the breaking point. Then you go in the right direction. That's important. But that you get by hearing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Because, yes, Purnachandra.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for a nice class. About some people or our mind can challenge many time because of the stressful life. We can think that okay, maybe end of the day I can just relax for a few minutes by reading something or news or watching something which may not be related to Krishna. So how we can answer to that question or challenge the mind in that?
Yeah, it's a reaction of the mind, of the contaminated mind. But it's best to avoid this by balance, by being balanced in what we do. That because if you are overstretching too much, if you are going too deep in things during the day with attachment, then the mind says, yeah, it's too much. I need the other side. I need to relax. But so balance is important. That you feel satisfied with what you do during the day, that in the evening you don't need this. That it's a reaction of the minds of our unbalanced engagement in things. So balance is very important. That we have to plan our day also, try our best. That it's not always possible, but instead of looking at your computer screen to relax, make a walk, chant, look at the horizon, take a deep breath, and that will relax you. The mind says you do something else. Look at some nonsense at the internet to relax. But it will not relax you, really. It will remain just stressful. So balance is important, and the way how you react to it. Give your mind some relaxation by walking, calming down and chanting. That so yes, it depends on the situation, but that's what I could advise. Does that help?
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah, thank you very much, Maharaj. And
Thank you.
there is a question on chat, Maharaj, from Anjali Mataji.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj, how we can train our brain and mind to surrender everything to Lord Krishna? What are the steps which we should follow at every moment of time?
Yeah, our brain means our mind. That Prabhupada said this Krishna consciousness movement is meant to train our mind in Krishna consciousness. It's a training program. It's a training program with stages. That and the mind is attachment. You have to transfer the attachment from the material sense gratification to Krishna. And therefore, this first today is important, that we need to hear, to hear about Krishna daily and absorb ourselves. Also hearing Bhagavad Gita, hearing classes, associate with devotees. It is a gradual process. The process to change that attachment of the mind is Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. The program Krishna, Srila Prabhupada gave us. Have a morning program and an evening program. You have a sandwich then, but have that association of devotees. And during the day, try to relate your work or whatever you do with Krishna. That it's a gradual process. That it doesn't happen overnight, that we shift from one to another. But Krishna consciousness is a process, and the process with stages. And we must go to the stages. Sadhu Sangha. It starts with Chada, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajna Kriya, and then Anartha Nivritti. Anartha Nivritti we come through if we follow the program really seriously every day. Then it's going to happen. If we don't have a good sadhana, then it doesn't happen. We remain on the neophyte platform, disturbed by so many things in this world. But if we simply follow Prabhupada's programs every day, we will get better. That's what I could say, Anjali. I hope that helps. Looking forward to see you tomorrow, because at 10 minutes I have another 2 classes in the afternoon now for the VHE. But I'm not giving the classes. I have to evaluate the classes. Now I'm going to hear 2 classes. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much. All the best.
Yeah, His Holiness Bhakti.
His Holiness
Jai. His Holiness Bhakti Prabha Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.